Welcome to part 2 of television series. Hope you enjoy. Oh, I wanted to love it so bad. Why? I really wanted to. I'm sorry. I just could not do it. It pretty much feels like Star Wars to me, like a Star Wars film noir. I couldn't really get into the world. These characters constantly have to deal with the same sort of problem every episode, and nothing feels like it's changed about them. And in fact, when you get to sort of the deeper parts of their arcs, it feels kind of irrelevant. It feels like, oh, we're just doing this because we need to make the characters deep. A lot of it, I'm gonna say it, a lot of it feels like one of those 60s superhero animated shows. Problem gets resolved at the end of the episode. Think of how complex those characters are, those Spider-Mans, you know, trying to get through this. That is the amount of investment I have in these people. I got through, I think like half of the show. I was just like, I'm waiting for it to get better. But their chemistry, their development, and this world, it didn't grab me, man. I just was like, wow, this sucks. Now we go from a kind of bad anime to a really freaking amazing one, Death Note. Oh boy, this is up there for me with Gone Girl in like my favorite thrillers. This is one of those shows that right from the get-go of episode 1, you are hooked. There is no way you're going to just shut it off and go, I don't really care what's gonna happen. It's like, no, you have to know what's gonna happen. Apart from the brilliant concept, this is one of those shows that is extremely dialogue heavy. It is somewhat reminiscent of Dark Knight, where it is a thriller and it has like that fantasy element, but it feels very real. And there's a lot of dialogue, a lot of talking, a lot of explaining. But what they do, and what is so brilliant about this show, is they explain to you exactly why they're going to do these things, but they also explain the how. I would recommend watching this on Netflix because Netflix has that little tab that you can like rewind 10 seconds. I must have done that about 1,000 times in this show just so I can process it. But once you figure it out, once you really show what's going on and it's all in there, you are just so hooked and you want to know exactly what's going to happen. I mean, Light Yagami, someone who is so conniving but also so smart, but is also young. And you have someone who is young and ideal, but is given this unbelievable power. The lengths this person will go in order to conquer, in order to get past somebody, it's just phenomenal to watch. And you have L, of course. I mean, that tennis scene, it's just a game of tennis, but it is so grand, so epic, and it is so intense. They never fully tell you about who L is. We get to know a little bit, but not a whole lot. That scene when they're on top of the building and it's pouring rain, that's all you need. For a show that explains so much and has so much talking, so much dialogue, for that scene to happen and for it to be kind of all you really need to know about knowing L a little bit more, that is just such advanced level of storytelling, knowing when to not tell something and knowing when to tell it. And knowing that this is a show that's going to need all that dialogue. It's thrilling, it's beautiful, it is smart as all fuck. Some of the best characters you'll ever see. One of the greatest thrillers ever made. Thriller? Well, if you can call it that. I don't know if I'm really all that thrilled. Dexter was one of those shows that I was going to take a look at after another show. Well, it's Hannibal. So I wanted to get a little bit more of that because I really enjoyed Hannibal. Now, let's just say something right off the bat. What is the title of the show? Okay. When does that fucking happen? This show has, in comparison to Hannibal, it has just an awful supporting cast. I don't know why we're focusing on all these people nobody really gives a shit about. The police the head of the police, the sister, the girlfriend. I'm like, why the fuck do I care when you have a freaking sociopathic serial killer who is kind of Deadpool-esque sort of talking to us, and you just hear his what the fuckery sort of narration. It's like when you read Dracula and whenever you cut away from Jonathan and Dracula to the fucking sister and shit, it's like cutting to a wall. It is so boring. I can't even get behind the murders. I don't think it's as brutal as Hannibal was. There's just not enough there with even the Dexter character, and we don't spend enough time with them anyway for me to even give a shit. So I'm kind of torn on this show, and I could not get through the first season. This is a cute little mini series called Dinosaur Planet. I watched it recently because I remember when I was a lot younger, I was obsessed with dinosaurs. I mean, I wore a costume with a dinosaur sort of head and with like your face in it. I wore that to school every day. If not, it was my Spider-Man costume and I'd sleep in the Spider-Man mask. I've heard some complaints that when people see stuff like The Good Dinosaur or the movie Dinosaur, they are kind of disappointed because the trailer shows that there's not a lot of dialogue and it's going to be like all music and just showing these dinosaurs live their life, go on their journeys or whatever. This is one of those sort of documentaries that it's all CG. It's like Walking with Dinosaurs. It's just no dialogue. You just follow a certain dinosaur throughout an episode, and it surprisingly keeps your imagination. For something that I believe was just direct to DVD, I thought it was super fun, especially the first one where it's just following this raptor who survives a tsunami. And doesn't that sound kind of cool? You just follow him through it. I'm just like, it is kind of cool. So not much to say about that, but I wanted to throw that out there because I thought it was pretty cool. We will get to The Walking Dead probably farther down, but of course you can't talk about The Walking Dead without talking about the follow-up series that came out, Fear the Walking Dead. Okay, how do I put this lightly? It's not as good as Walking Dead. It's not. I got through the first 2 seasons and that was enough for me. The first season I could tolerate enough. I don't think it's, first of all, it's not as violent, which is disappointing. It's like, come on, give us the gore. I thought this was a cool idea, having it where before Rick Grimes wakes up, you have a family and you follow them as the apocalypse starts. I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool, but the problem is this is immediately gonna distance it from The Walking Dead, because The Walking Dead, and we'll get to it, but for me, when it works the best is when there's very few characters and it's very deserted and it's very quiet. Now, in this one, there's music going on, there's the score just not shutting up, you have society, you have all of these characters and they're interacting with other people. You have institutions that are still running. So already there's going to be a disconnect, so that's a little bit difficult. But at least can we stay with people who are tolerable? They're tolerable in the first season, but by the second, you have the spoiled bitch sister who does nothing but complain. You have the son who I don't think ever smiles and always bitches and blames the father for fucking everything. And you have the mother who does nothing but bitch and complain about everything and constantly berates her children, going, oh, you shouldn't do this, you can't do that, and constantly persuading the father. I'm just like, oh, even the father, it's like, as bland as he is, it's like I'm rooting for him at least, because he's the only one that is making sense in this fucking family. And I'm just like, oh my god, will these people shut the fuck up? So yeah, not as good, not as complex, not as gory, not as violent. It's a fail. Now we get to the good stuff. Freaks and Geeks, baby. Why did this get canceled? I'm so fucking mad about it. I was born when this came out, and as a little toddler, I was fucking pissed. If you like coming of age movies, if you get into like Dazed and Confused, this is totally something you gotta see. Every single character is so much fun and they feel like real teens. It takes you through the good, the bad, and the ugly of being a teenager, being a young teenager, and being an older one. It totally addresses alienation, isolation, and it's still a lot of fun. So that's how it sort of plays through. I mean, you got Seth Rogen, you got James Franco. It's one of those where if you start to idealize high school, it sort of reminds you back down that it wasn't that great. I mean, but I guess these experiences you're gonna remember forever, so it's a great show. You really should check it out. Full Metal Alchemist. I'm just gonna pair this up with Blue Exorcist and Cowboy Bebop as just animes that sucked, and I kind of have the same reasons. I'm just like, I can't get into the characters, can't get into the story. It's kind of just become very formulaic already, and I didn't even see that many episodes. I'm just like, bleh. Life is just like planet Earth, especially if you're into wildlife, if you're into just seeing beautiful cinematography, you definitely owe it to yourself to check out Life. See the David Attenborough one, not the fucking Oprah Winfrey one. Animal documentaries have definitely come a long way. This came out about 10 years ago. Recently, we had those sort of when animals attack. It's kind of just planet Earth, but just cutting to whenever like a cheetah catches a gazelle. When you look at the cinematography in that, it reminds you like, wow, they're just getting better and better at this. And I want to see this in the theater, like in 3D. Can you imagine seeing one of these miniseries in AVX 3D? I'm just like, holy fuck, that would be awesome. I wanted to love this show beyond how much I could describe. It sounds kind of weird, but the thing is that Game of Thrones, to me, was something I wanted to cherish because I knew I was going to love it, and I waited a few years because, I don't know, you get busy and blah, 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 and the show wasn't over yet. The show's gonna be wrapping up this year. I'll say this, now that 3 years ago I watched it, I got through 4 seasons. The biggest problem with this show is way too many characters, way too many locations, and not enough time spent with people. It's like doing Walking Dead, and in the first episode, you start with the amount of characters they had in season 6. You start off with so many people. It gets to the point in the series, some characters don't even appear in episodes. You know that there's a problem there. I cannot get behind any of these people because it's like, okay, 5 minutes, we gotta go to Daenerys, who's completely closed off from everybody else and takes a freaking millennium to even do something. You spend a minute with Tyrion doing whatever. You spend Joffrey being a dick somewhere else, and then you spend a time with Tywin going somewhere else. It's like, God, just keep us there, please. And you know what I was saying about with Death Note, that it's one of those shows that works with dialogue so well. This one, oh my God. You wanna have just basically how to do a Game of Thrones scene. You have a character doing something or eating something, and then another character goes up. Ooh, epic thing, epic thing. Oh, we must do that thing. Oh, you're really a smart one, and I'm going to be sarcastic to you. And then I'm going to walk away. And then this character just goes like this. Then you hear the voiceover for the next scene. That is every fucking scene, and I'm just like, I'm sick of it. I can't do this. And it's just characters I cannot get behind. It's like, I want to get behind these people. I want to see Arya, you know, step up and do something. I want to see Daenerys finally pillage, but I'm not gonna wait 4 seasons for that. I'm not gonna wait hours and hours and hours to see shit fucking happen. But besides that, when it does hit quite well. It is a gorgeous show to look at. I'm sure all of you would agree. The characters I really got behind were definitely Tyrion and Tywin. Tywin especially I really got into. With a lot of these deaths, because when I got to the Red Wedding, I was kind of underwhelmed. I was like, really? Like, huh? Like, this is supposed to be the most shocking moment in TV history. I'm like, you fucking kidding me? Because I could not get into that character. He just kind of seemed like the young person who finally was elected to power, and you spend, again, 5 minutes every 2 or 3 episodes. So why were people so shocked and so devastated? Do not understand that. But besides that, the first 3 seasons, they are really good, and there's a lot of effort that goes into the show, and I think by season 4, the patience I had to sit through it was really kind of waning for me, and I'm just like, I got nothing. Hannibal, that was what I was going to talk about. This is Dexter done right. We have more so a trio of characters we really get behind. You get behind Lawrence Fishburne, Will Graham, and Hannibal himself. Honestly, this might just be my favorite Hannibal. I don't know, Anthony Hopkins, so close. I'd say he's more intimidating, but I don't know if intimidation is like mandatory for this kind of role, because he's supposed to be more, you know, the persuader, the suave, the in control person. The amount of secrecy and deception is really what keeps the show going. You have Lawrence Fishburne, who is kind of the strong man, the composed one, but also the moral one. So you have the moral, composed person, you have Hannibal, who's the psychotic but very composed, emotionally intelligent person, and you have Will Graham, who is kind of always been on both sides. He's kind of been on the good side for the most part. By season 2, that is really put into question, and he is the one who has always been emotionally vulnerable. So it's great seeing the three of them work off each other. And the supporting characters, they're all very interesting, but we don't spend like an episode just dedicated to them and what they have to go through themselves. It's like, no, they are always answering to what the main characters are going through. It is gorgeous to look at, beautifully filmed, wonderfully acted. Now the thing is that the only complaint I really have about it, I have two. First one, all of these murders are like a 1 in a million chance of finding. I mean, even Jeffrey Dahmer would be like, what the fuck? Second, season 3 is a piece of shit. It is just a big fuck you to every fan who was just kind of amazed at what happened in season 2's finale. You're just kind of watching this and it feels like a dream you have after, like a week after you see season 2. It's like, wow, imagine if that shit really happens in the next season. It's kind of one of those. It's kind of just this other universe and it sucks. It's fucking terrible. Do not see the 3rd season. Just see the 2nd season. I don't know if it'll satisfy you, but just trust me, it's gonna disappoint you season 3. Just act like it doesn't happen.